I'm finding life hard at the moment because all 5 of us are stuck in the house together all the time.
I'm finding lockdown hard just now because I'm furloughed, which means that I'm missing the structure of going to work every day.
I'm finding life difficult at the moment because I'm worried about my family getting sick.
During lockdown, I'm finding it hard because I'm not being able to see all my friends and family.
I'm finding life hard just now because I lost my job at the end of January this year. Trying to find a job at the moment just seems to be impossible.
I'm finding life hard just now because I'm missing my grandchildren.
Life is difficult just now, isn't it? Whether you're struggling with the same things that those people are, or whether it's something else entirely. And tonight what we're going to be thinking about is what if something actually helped? What if something could help us in the situation that we're in just now? My name's Greg, I'm the pastor of the church here, and this evening we're going to just look at the Bible and see if Jesus has anything to offer us that can help. As we begin though, I just want to get us to think about why this period is particularly difficult. Why are we finding this so hard? Like, there's so many different things that we're all struggling with, but there's something else underneath it all that seems to make it even more difficult to cope. I think the reason for that is because all the things that we normally go to for support and help and meaning and purpose has all been taken away. Whether you normally look to your family, you're in a close family and they are normally the ones who support you and help you through, but just now you're not allowed to see them. They're not allowed to support you in the way that they usually do. Or maybe normally you're just living for your holiday, or living for that thing that you can just look forward to, a week in the sun, and you just think, as long as I can get there, I'll be all right. That will renew me, refresh me. But the holiday's been cancelled, and there's no prospect of being able to book another one. So what do you live for? Or maybe you just live in the knowledge and the security of a stable job, and you know that your life's going to be all right because you've got a stable job. But now you've been put on furlough, and you don't even know whether there's going to be a job for you to go back to. And so that thing that you usually rely on for stability has been smashed up and taken away. So what do we turn to? There's so many different things on the internet that people are saying, do this or do that, and it will help you through this difficult time. I don't know if you're the same as me, but all of those things just seem empty, and they never really satisfy or get to the root of what's my problem. And tonight I'm wanting just to see what Jesus says and whether he is able to help us. In order to do that, we're going to read a few words from Jesus that are recorded in the Gospel of John. So the Gospel of John is a book in the Bible. It was written by one of Jesus' closest friends. He had his 12 disciples, and of those 12 disciples, he had 3 close disciples, Peter, James, and John, kind of his best pals. And John is the one who wrote this book. So we're reading from John chapter 10 and verse 11. And as we read, I'm wanting you to think or to try and see, what is it that Jesus is saying about himself? So Jesus says, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep. So when he sees the wolf coming, he abandons the sheep and runs away. Then the wolf attacks the flock and scatters it. The man runs away because he is a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. Just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. So as we turn to this passage and think about it, Jesus is saying that he is the good shepherd. But to understand what Jesus means by that, we have to understand what a shepherd was like in his day. Because when you or I think of a shepherd, we think of them probably pushing their sheep across a field through a gate, using a quad bike and a couple of dogs. But in Jesus' day, shepherds were totally different. They didn't push their sheep or drive their sheep. They led their sheep. They lived in a place where there wasn't much grass, and the sheep were really dependent on the shepherd to show them where they needed to go to get food. Not only did they need lead in order to get food, but they also needed protected. There was lots of wild animals who quite enjoyed eating lamb for tea, and so they needed to be protected by the shepherd. And so wherever the shepherd went, the sheep followed. And the shepherd wasn't able just to go home to his house, but he had to live out in the field with the sheep all the time in order to lead them and protect them. And so it's that picture that Jesus is using when he says, I am the good shepherd. He's wanting to say, just like the shepherd leads the sheep, I lead my people. So look what Jesus says. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. He's wanting you to know that he is willing to lead as a shepherd leads and lay down his life as a shepherd would to protect his sheep. In order to make the point, Jesus points out the difference between a good shepherd and a hired hand, a bad shepherd, one who doesn't own the sheep and cares nothing for the sheep. And in order to explain it, he gives you a picture to imagine. And so just do it now. Imagine that you can see a field in the wilderness, in a really wild place, and you can see a big group of sheep and a shepherd standing there with his sheep. And then off in the distance, you can see a wolf appear on the horizon, and it's running straight towards the sheep. And then your eyes would turn straight back to the shepherd and go, what's he going to do? Is he going to run away and leave the sheep to be eaten by the wolf? Or is he going to go into the middle of the way, into the way where the wolf is coming, put himself in between the wolf and the sheep and protect his sheep? Well, Jesus says the hired hand doesn't care anything for the sheep, and he's going to be off-ski. He's going to abandon the sheep and leave them to be eaten. He says, but the good shepherd, he puts himself in the way, in between the danger and the sheep, and lays his life down for the sheep, even willing to die as long as he's protecting his sheep. Jesus says, I'm that type of shepherd. And as Jesus tells this story, he's actually pointing forward to what he's going to do at the very end of his life. He's pointing forward to that day when he will die on the cross. The Bible tells us that Jesus was the good shepherd who laid down his life for the sheep. That you and I have sinned, gone away from God, and the punishment for that sin is death. But the Bible says that Jesus loved us so much that he was willing to die in our place. Willing to die in our place because he loved you. He chose to go to Jerusalem even though he knew people were trying to kill him. He chose to go to a garden where he knew they would find him. He chose to be arrested. He chose to be nailed to a cross. He chose to die to save you and me. To put himself in between danger and us, and to die in the process of saving us. Now, the question is, assume that you believe all of that. Assume that you think, okay, Greg, I'm willing to believe that Jesus said this and that he meant it. But how am I to know that he is actually a shepherd who can protect me? A shepherd who can help me? Perhaps he was willing, but what does that mean to me 2,000 years ago? What does that mean 2,000 years later? Well, we're told in verse 17 and 18, Jesus says, I lay down my life only to take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have authority to lay it down and authority to take it up again. This command I received from my Father. Jesus, in this verse, gives us a test that we can apply. A test to find out whether he's for real. He says, after I have died for you, I'll take my life back up again, just as easily as you would pick up a bag. He says, after I have died, I will rise again. He gives us a test. If Jesus is the one who can defeat death and sin and Satan, then we have to see the victory of it. And the victory is his resurrection life. And John, who writes this story, later on in these chapters, you can read it yourself, says that he saw Jesus die on the cross. And then 3 days later, he saw him again, alive, able to eat, able to talk, able to shake hands. A physical, living Jesus, risen from the dead, the one who had lain down his life to save us and then had defeated death and risen again. He's the one who offers to help you today. Jesus says in verse 15 and 16, he says, I lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep that are not of this sheepfold. I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. So Jesus is saying here, will you listen to my voice? He's saying he's going to call his sheep to follow him. And he's asking, will you hear him? Will you follow him? There's so many things at the moment that we're being called to follow. If you watch Boris Johnson, whenever he speaks, he seems to always say that we're going to follow the science. And the science is going to lead us through, lead us to safety. We'll be all right because we're following the science. But there's a major problem with that. That's that every country in the world is following the science. But they're all doing different things. And so the science doesn't seem like it's very clear. And not only does it not seem like it's very clear, it doesn't look like it's working either. We're following the science, and yet we've got the highest death rate in the whole of Europe. So following the science doesn't seem like a very good idea. It seems to be one of those hired hands that's going to abandon us when time gets tough. Or other times we're told to put our trust in the NHS. NHS in our country has been relied upon like it's never been before. We've put so much pressure on doctors and nurses to be our saviours. But they're just as scared and helpless as we are in lots of ways. They're giving us really good care. They're still going to work even though it's terrifying for them. They're still willing to go and to help us and to treat us. But they don't have any medicine that they're able to give us. And they're just as scared as we are and just as susceptible to dying from the virus as we are. The NHS is wonderful and they're doing a great work, but they're not able to save us. There doesn't seem to be anything that's been pushed at us which is able to deliver. Jesus says, are you going to listen to those voices or are you going to listen to my voice? So what actually helps? What's actually going to help us through this time? I don't think that there's any other options that stack up, any other options that will help us like Jesus can. He's the shepherd who loves you. He's the shepherd who will lead you through life. He's the shepherd who died to save you and rose again to prove that he had conquered death. And he calls you to trust him and follow him. Now, if you're interested, you want to check this out further, then I've got a couple of things that could help you. I can send you a wee copy of John's Gospel, this story written by John. If you would like one of them, you can send us a Facebook message and we'll post it out to you. Or maybe you're interested in going a wee bit further than that, and we're starting a course soon called Christianity Explored. It's going to just look at who Jesus is and those foundation aspects of the Christian faith. And if you'd be interested in doing that through the internet, then please also send us a wee Facebook message and we'll link you up. Just now though, I want to just invite you to listen to a few stories from people. You've heard what I've got to say, but just here a few people, I've asked them just to tell us what help does Jesus give them as their shepherd today.
I have been working as a nurse when coronavirus pandemic has been going on. I have found this difficult because we are caring for vulnerable people who already have illnesses, and adding in COVID-19 adds an extra level of fear and anxiousness. I've been scared to go to work as I might get seriously ill or die, and same applies to my patients. I'm sure if any of you ask any key worker or medical profession, they will say the same. As a Christian working as a nurse, Jesus has made a difference in my life because I know that my future is secure. I have no fear in death because I have a certain hope. When things seem scary in work, I have a confidence. This is a real comfort to me because when things seem hopeless, I know that I have a hope.
It's been a very strange 8 weeks, it really has. We've been almost imprisoned in our own home, and I've really missed seeing my daughters, my husbands, our family, getting cuddles from our grandchildren. It's been really weird. Indeed, the car hasn't even turned a wheel. But when you reflect on it, we realise God's word tells us very clearly that He is in control. And that's very reassuring. Indeed, there's many, many promises that I can claim in the Bible because He directs them to everyone who acknowledges Him as Lord and Saviour. And we thank Him for that. And as we go forward, we don't know in the future, don't know how long it's going to last for me, but what I can say is that He will be with me and He will guide and direct and lead me, irrespective of the time or in what way.
Because if Jesus wasn't in it, then I would definitely be lost. I would see no end to it. But because I believe that Jesus is in control of all this and there will be good come out of it, and that this is not the end. We're going through this and Jesus will be going through with us. Even He's not going to say it's going to be good. He's just going to say we'll go through it and we'll come out of it okay at the end. Hopefully we'll all come out better and appreciating things, because as I've looked around and as I've had more time to look at things like gardens where I would be running by before, because in my life I'm usually very busy and I don't get time to see nature and what God has already provided. And when I do see it, it gives me hope that there is a God there and He will bring us out the other end. We will be okay.